Welcome to E-commerce with Coffee, a podcast powered by Amber Engine, where we share e-com secrets for brands over your favorite brew. We start with the caffeine and then leap enthusiastically into behind-the-scenes e-com insights that led to the success of our guests. I'm Nate Svoboda, and I'm about to serve you up the best. Let's get started. Welcome to today's episode of E-commerce with Coffee. Today, I am speaking with Shannon Roddy. He is an Amazon expert and founder of Marketplace Seller Courses. Now, he provides courses, resources, and tools to help entrepreneurs with the strategies they need to succeed on Amazon. And you've worked with over 150 clients. So really excited to talk today about what levers you need to pull to most meaningfully move the needle for a seller or brand on Amazon. So Shannon, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me, Nate. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Really excited to chat with you. Now, I think we talked a little bit, you're not a huge coffee person, right?
I only drink, I'm not like a morning coffee person, and I can only drink the Starbucks like mocha frappuccinos that come in the glass bottles because it's an extract. So for some reason, my body just doesn't like regular coffee, but those work for me. So I'm not a regular coffee drinker until we had a child that did not sleep for the first 6 months of his life. And then I became a coffee drinker.
and then it's just a necessity, right? At that point.
Yeah. I've been able to, quit for a while and stuff. And then, you have a couple of rough nights where the kids wake up in the middle of the night and then you become a coffee drinker for the next couple of days. So
no, that's fair enough. And hey, the frappuccinos are great then, because then you just pull one out of the fridge and pop the top on it. You don't have to brew anything
whatever you want. They're nice. They're smooth. I like it cold as opposed to hot. So yeah, I'm a little bit of a tea drinker. We picked up tea drinking in Africa, but coffee. When I need a coffee, I go to Starbucks. So
hey, tea has a great amount of caffeine too, depending on the type. So there you go.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool. Well, really excited to chat with you today. So I guess before we dive into some of the questions we had prepared, maybe give a high level on your experience, your background, and how you got started doing all what you're doing.
Yeah, so I started 10 years ago. I got my own product on Amazon. I developed a product that I had just been, created for myself. It was something that was like, I really want to be able to understand this, and so it's an informational product, which is kind of what I specialize in. So I wanted to understand something better. I did a ton of research and created a product, and people kept asking me, hey, can I get one of those? Hey, can I get one of those for my dad? Or that'd be a really cool gift for so-and-so. So I'm like, well, people keep wanting them. I wonder if they'd be willing to pay for them. And so, of course, I went through the rigmarole, but like I said, my wife and I spent some time in Africa. And when I got back, that was one of my goals. I was like, I want to get this product on Amazon. That's my goal. Had no idea what I was doing. It was totally overwhelming. Had no idea what a UPC code was, didn't know what a SKU was, how it was supposed to look. I mean, everything just sort of felt overwhelming, but I just did it. I pushed through and got the product up on Amazon. Didn't have a lot of success the first year, just kind of lost money. I mean, second year made a little bit of money, but it was the third year that I was learning SEO and web design. And I figured out, I wonder if SEO that we use for Google could work for Amazon as well. And this is before all the Amazon SEO tools, like none of that existed. And so I added some SEO to the listing and sales skyrocketed. It was like, well, if that was one principle that I figured out, what else could apply to help Amazon? And so that was sort of the initial catalyst. And the second part of that journey was a friend of mine, my best friend, Eric Koymans. He had a client, international apparel company, and they were selling on Amazon. He said, I need you to go in and clean up their Amazon listings. And it was a disaster. Duplicate listings, parent-child configurations that were wrong. They had unauthorized resellers, unoptimized listings, and a lot of missing inventory that wasn't on the platform. So I went through this, couple month journey of figuring all this stuff out on my own. Again, no resources online. And the way I work, Nate, is if I go through a situation, and it's hard and challenging, and there was no resources for me, I feel compelled to create those resources and turn around and give it to the person behind me so they can have a better experience than I can. I think I got a lot of it from my dad. That's just the way he was. He had a really tough life growing up in the south side of Chicago. And I think he just always had the desire to make other people's lives better than his own. And so for me, that's really the catalyst of it. And so out of that experience, I started writing articles and getting clients, and eventually dumped the web design business that I was doing and pivoted to Amazon and wound up creating the Amazon Brand Success Academy, which is like 8 years of Amazon expertise and knowledge in an online course that people can take so that they can avoid all those pitfalls and all those mistakes and all those challenges. Like Amazon is hard enough with resources. I can't even imagine trying to do it without it. So that's the long short of it. But out of that, as you mentioned, I provide courses, coaching, and resources and tools to help brand owners primarily, launch, grow, and protect their brands on Amazon. And I just get such a thrill out of it, helping companies. It's like, that's where my success, if I can help you become successful, that makes me, sort of internalize my success, if that makes sense.
That makes tons of sense. And that's especially great because there's never going to be a shortage of people that need help on Amazon, right? Especially because you can't be a laggard in order to be successful on Amazon. You need to be aware of the trends of what's coming up, what changes are being made in the moment. And that's a huge value add for individuals like yourself, right? Because you're, constantly staying on top of that stuff.
Yeah. And it's a combination of best practices. Like, hey, there's new best practices. There's new advertising things that you can do. There's new listing optimization things you can do, like documents. You can add PDF documents to your listing now. Well, that's new. Most people don't know you can do that. So if you've got a size chart for your product or something like that, it's like, it's so frustrating. How do I get this to the customer? Now there's a way, but people don't know it exists. On the other side, you have policy changes. Amazon made an update in terms of emails that you can send. They made an update in terms of, what you can put in the description and the bullets, so there's all these different pieces, and you have to keep up to date with both so that you can continue to grow and, beat competition. And at the same time, not get suspended, right? Which is the number one fear, I think, of every Amazon seller out there. And it's very, very real. So.
Oh, that's absolutely fair. I've definitely heard a lot of horror stories of people. I think they've gotten a little bit more lenient with it now, right? They used to just slap the suspension on you out of nowhere, and then you had like 72 hours to respond or something like that.
Yeah, they've done a better job giving you a heads up. And I had clients in the last couple of months even who experienced issues that Amazon said, hey, warning, here's a warning sign. If you don't get this resolved, this is going to happen. And, they reached out to us and said, set up a call with seller account health, make sure you know what's going on. Whereas 6 years ago, they just suspended the account. We had to request reinstatement. So they are getting a little better at that. At the same time, there's so many things that can go wrong. And sometimes it's not just account suspension, it's restrictions. Your listing is restricted. Well, why? And you got to figure out all that. So there's enough headaches that still exist that they're getting a little bit better, but it hasn't completely changed where it's a seller-centric, platform. I still say Amazon's goal is to be consumer-centric. So by default, sellers are not their first priority.
Nope, absolutely. And that's exactly in line with what I've heard from other people. So right on the money there. Now, so I mean, you kind of touched on this a little bit ago with your own experience, right? You talked about, you figured out SEO, and that absolutely changed the game for you, among other things. But so notwithstanding that, you don't know what you don't know, what are some of the reasons that most brands fail selling on Amazon, or maybe don't maximize their success?
So I think there's two things. One, you're absolutely right. The number one reason brands fail on Amazon is they don't know what they don't know. And a lot of it is because people operate off of what I call the piecemeal approach. And that's, I got a little piece of information here on social media, on a webinar, on a blog, conference, podcast. And what I say is those are great for additional information, but you really need all the information to be successful. You need a foundation. And then those can be the updates that you get of, hey, here's like a new policy update, a new best practice. That needs to build on a foundation. If you don't have the foundation, you're missing fundamental things, and those gaps leave, opportunity and loss on the table. Or, like I said, it can lead to account suspension. The second thing is, I think people fail to realize that Amazon is an all-in platform. If you have an eBay storefront, you can take a couple of weeks, set up eBay, get the integrations in place, set up the advertising. You literally like turn it on and put the percentage that you want to advertise your products at, and just let it run. You can kind of, Amazon, you have to be 100% committed to the platform. If you're not, you're going to have a brutal time. And the key is, if you are 100% committed to it and have a good product, you can leverage it and do really well. But if you're not 100% committed, and I've talked to companies that are like, they just don't have the resources, the time, everybody has three things: time, money, and energy. And we have limited resources. So if you don't have what it's going to take to really be successful on Amazon and give 100%, don't even bother. It's not going to be like, don't even put in the time and the effort to just do it halfway. If you're going to optimize a listing, optimize it all the way. If you're going to do keyword research, do all the keyword research. If you're going to set up advertising, set up the whole, holistic aspect of advertising. And I know you've got some questions that will play into how do I decide where to focus my time, money, and energy, but we'll help clarify that as well. But those are the biggest things that people make a lot of assumptions about Amazon. And I think there's just a lot of, bad information out there. People, I was in this Facebook group and they said you have to do this and you got to give away products and, try to buy reviews. All this stuff is like, it's out of Amazon policy. They're black hat tactics. They'll get your account suspended. It's really, really bad. And it's unethical. And, even if you don't get caught, it's just not a good way of doing business or life. So there's so many good things that you can do in line with Amazon policy that you need to focus on all of those, but you got to know what those are and you got to know how to do it.
Absolutely. And you're right. We're going to dive into some of the more specific, strategies, techniques that you recommend. But, when brands look to Amazon savvy experts, like yourself for insights into what they should do or focus on, what are some good measures to know who to listen to, right? Because while there are some people with proven expertise, there's also more opinions than ever, right? You touched on it in blogs, courses, podcasts, et cetera.
Yeah. So people are always asking, they're like, what's the one thing? What's the one thing I need to do to be successful selling Amazon? What's the silver bullet? And I'm like, there is no silver bullet. It's doing 128 things right and doing them consistently. I think a couple of red flags are, number one, guarantees. So when people come to me for coaching or consulting, I don't have to have income disclaimers on my website because I don't make any, right? And, people are like, well, how much can you do? How much are you going to increase? When people start making claims of we increase everything by this, or we can guarantee we can get you on page one, that should be a red flag that says there's no way to do that without some level of manipulation. You can do a lot of things, white hat things such as, good advertising and listing optimization, but be careful when people make, guarantees. I'll tell people, most of my clients, I'm able to increase their sales by 200 to 400%, once they're done working with me. That could be a few months to, a couple of years. It just depends on the time frame of the commitment, but there's no guarantees that, people are like, well, how much am I going to make and how much are you going to do? So we don't know yet. We could look at the competitors, but we really don't know until we get started. So I think that's the biggest one. And then really knowing what the Amazon policies are so that you can gauge what people are saying and telling you to do is a good idea. You've got to make sure that you understand what Amazon's hard, fast policies are. And if it sounds a little sketchy, do your research and see what Amazon has to say about it. But beyond that, be careful of anybody who's, comes across as arrogant and boastful that every single person they help, they can achieve success, because you can't guarantee success of a bad product. You can't guarantee success of a premium product when they don't have the good fit with the audience. I mean, there's just so many things that come into play of what determines success. So when somebody's guaranteeing you success or guaranteeing page one rank or all these different things, be careful and probably consider walking away, because it's usually BS.
Yeah, I think that's more than fair. And I love that, right? Setting proper expectations is absolutely key. That's absolutely digestible. So, you talked about, I love this. You have to do 128 things right, and you have to do them consistently. But as a general rule, brands won't be able to focus on everything at once. So I guess help me understand, what are some of the ways that you or your brands prioritize and identify the things that are most crucial to success that they need to start with?
So the first thing is, I use this framework of, Amazon is like launching a rocket. Okay. 85% of your success is in that setup. So your time, money, and energy is going to be front loaded typically into like the first 2 to 3 months. That's where all the work is done to build out the listings and to build out the, infrastructure. So I say it's like building a rocket, and the first level of building a rocket is building the platform, building the launch pad. If you don't have a firm foundation, when that rocket takes off, everything's going to crumble and it's not going to work. If you don't have systems in place, if you don't have customer service in place, if you don't have your fulfillment methods and your feedback emails and all these things in place, success, right? So getting a lot of sales can actually be detrimental and cause the whole thing to collapse. So you got to build your infrastructure, and you only have to build your infrastructure once. Okay. The second part is optimizing your listings. And I say that's aiming the rocket. How high do I want to go? Where do I want to end up? Do I want my product to be a number one bestseller or Amazon choice or, number one in my category? And And that's aiming the rocket, right? So if you aim your rocket here, and I've seen some subpar listings, a lot of subpar listings on Amazon, you're basically aiming this way. It just means you're going to hover along the ground, regardless of how much rocket fuel you put behind it. You're never going to get to where you want to go. And so doing the SEO keyword research, optimizing your title, your product images, your features, and your description, A+ content is absolutely essential. Now, the last part is launching the rocket, which is adding that fuel. Typically advertising, right? Launching your products through advertising, but there's also tons of great opportunities to do off Amazon advertising. It can be social media. You can use affiliates and influencers. But the idea is when it comes to resources, I think it's Henry Cloud in his book, Integrity, talks about this principle. He says, integrity is not just about being honest. It's about having all of your parts integrated and having your integrated self integrated with reality. He said, and to be integrated with reality, you have to understand that you have limits. So if I have time, money, and energy limits, I have to decide where to put those first, where to prioritize those. And here's the principle. You don't have to give something 100% of your time. You do have to give it 100% of the time it needs in order to be successful. So for example, you realize, based on the size of the company and what you're trying to accomplish, Amazon's going to require $15,000 and 50 man hours to be able to really get it off, the ground correctly. Do we have that? Yes or no? And if you don't, then you hold off. We either got to get more money or we got to decrease our scope or our expectations. So the one thing, I look at is if you certain amount of your work is just getting your account set up correctly, then it just comes down to how many products. Well, I have clients that have thousands of products, and we find ways to optimize across the board. So we apply this, optimization across the board to hundreds or thousands of products at the same time, where there's a lot of similarities and overlap. You can use the same images. You can maybe use the same product feature that talks about the generality of the product. But if you have limited resources, I just tell people start with your best-selling products. And if you've got limited time, money, and energy, start with one product. Get your one product up on Amazon, see how it does. Then you're only paying and putting energy into getting one optimized listing, and you're only paying to advertise one product and see how it does, as opposed to, well, we've got 20 products. You got to spend thousands of dollars or thousands of man hours, to do that. So when people have limited resources, they can use people like Daniela Boltzmann at Mindful Goods, who I know you've had on the show in the past, and they do done for you listing optimization. You can buy a single completely optimized detail page with all of that stuff done perfectly by Amazon experts in line with Amazon policy and see how it goes, and then you add, like I said, you take your SEO and you advertise against it. So the scalability piece is really how big, how fast, do you want to go? You can start small. And so I think that's where the key is. You don't have to focus on everything all at once. You do have to do everything well and in order. But if you need to cut back, it's the number of products that you're going after and how aggressive you're going after those products with campaigns, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. So, what I take away from that then is, in order to understand, at what point are you stretching operations too thin? That really is just dependent on the business level, at the business individually, right?
Yeah.
And then figuring out, you don't have to focus on everything at once. You just have to put 100% into what you are focusing on. So absolutely love that. Totally makes sense. Now, you just talked about the Amazon Flywheel, right? The little rocket example, which I love, by the way. So in the Flywheel, optimize comes before launch comes before analyze. So analysis after that, it brings you back to new optimizations, right? You're always going to find new things to improve upon. Mm-hmm. But, I wonder, how much should a brand focus on that first round of optimizations before launch, right? Understanding how many of their best insights will come after they see how the product performs.
I tell people to try to get it 85% to 90% of the way there. Right. And so it comes from, again, expertise. And if you don't have the internal expertise, you outsource, right? Go to Mindful Goods and just have them do the listing optimization. But what they're going to do is the same thing that you should do, the same thing that my courses teach people to do, is go through competitor reviews and see what people like and don't like. Look at the best sellers, not to mimic, but to get an understanding and inspiration. Then do the SEO keyword research yourself. And there's a great, Karen Thaxton of Marketing Awards has a great PDF ebook that you download that walks you through how to write good optimized title and product features and description. And she just walks you through all these exercises that you can do. Who is your target audience? What kind of language do they like? And this is the big thing. What are the key things that actually make people purchase the product, right? I mean, so people are always on the fence about things. And a lot of, especially new brand owners, make the mistake of assuming the more information I give them, the more they're going to want to buy the product. And that's not true. They're like, I need to give them all the information about my gadget so they buy the product. That's actually not the case. There's usually only 2 or 3, maybe 4, in some cases 5 things. People want to know that it's eco-friendly. They want to know it's gluten-free. They want to know it's simple to assemble. They want to know, like, these are the main things. Oh my gosh, you can store it easily under the car seat. Great. That's what I've been looking for. Something easily that's, easily stores. I want to make sure that it's going to be compatible with this. They're usually only needing 3 or 4 things that are really going to actually flip their decision from I'm not sure to, oh my God, yes, I want to buy this. And that's what you focus on. So you can do competitor research. You can also look at your own reviews. Again, if you're coming from an e-commerce website like Shopify, go through the comments that people have made on your Facebook posts or LinkedIn or Instagram, wherever people sort of give you feedback about your product. And once you understand what people really love about your product, and in some cases, your product's already on Amazon. Maybe it's sold by a reseller, maybe it's sold by you, but you're looking to up your game. In those cases, you can get a lot of information, like your customers are telling you, this is what's most important to me about your product. And that's how you write your product features. That's what you focus on. That's the unique value proposition that you mentioned in your title. So you have to be 100% in, right, to do all these things well. And when I say people are in one of 3 categories. I want to do it myself. I want to do it with help, or I want somebody else to do it for me. And so understanding first where you are based on your skill set and your resources, which of those 3 categories you're in, can really help you then make decisions on who do I need to go to get extra help, or who do I want to go to do this aspect of Amazon for me. But the idea is that, you don't have to do everything. It doesn't have to be perfect, but you can't skip doing your homework. You got to do your homework, right? And that's going to help you get a well-optimized listing. There's new things that you're going to learn later on, but Danielle and I will see people all the time. It's like, you made a rookie mistake. Like, you made a rookie mistake that you don't, like most people make, but you don't need to make that one because we teach you how you do it in the course, or, Danielle would do that for you if she did in her listing for you. So those are the pieces that you want to avoid, because that's going to result in loss of sales, right? That's just wasted time and energy writing a halfway optimized listing. So I tell people 85%, you get it 85% of the way there, you can make the tweaks and changes, once it's live, and you get real feedback from returns, product reviews, seller feedback, customer comments, et cetera.
That's one of my favorite things that I've heard, right? I mean, you very clearly see all the question and answer and the comments and stuff on the bottom of an Amazon listing. And to your point, people are wondering, man, what are the things I need to educate my prospective clients on? Well, answer the questions that they're asking in the Q&A that someone who bought the product is going and answering for them, right? Absolutely. I love that. Now, So how then do you educate brands about the launch part of the flywheel? And to kind of double that up, how different is this part of the flywheel for a brand just launching for the first time versus one that's just optimizing something that's already there?
So if they're already there, like I said, you can get some data and feedback about what's working well, what's not working at all. But the flywheel is you optimize your listing, you launch by driving targeted traffic, and then you analyze. The other piece of that principle that I like to talk about is called the Amazon trifecta. So this is discoverability plus buyability equals rankability. And this is what determines a product's organic rank on Amazon. Okay, so discoverability has to do with the SEO keyword research. This was what I discovered with my product, right? People were looking for my product, but I didn't have the SEO in the listing for that product to come up and show as relevant. So you have to do the keyword research and determine which search terms are relevant, strategically include those search terms in your listing so that Amazon's A9 algorithm knows what your listing is relevant for, and then helps customers discover your product. Well, great, discoverability is important, but it's not enough. Once it's discoverable, you have to work on the buyability, and that's the listing optimization that we talked about. I mean, images, A+ content, features, and titles, et cetera. The discoverability helps people get there. Buyability helps them convert. And so discoverability plus buyability equals rankability. If somebody searches for a specific term that's in your listing, your product comes up, they click add to cart and buy it, over time, your product will increase in organic rank for that keyword. It's very simple, actually. I think people kind of overcomplicate, the whole, platform and the algorithm. And there's several things that determine your product's organic rank, everything in terms of sales velocity and how many reviews and fulfillment method, is it fulfilled by Amazon or merchant? And I think they said seller account health is likely to play a bigger part in that. So there's all these things that help organic rank, but primarily it's, did a customer search a term? Was it in your listing? And did they buy the product as a result? And that's what determines your product's organic rank. So from that standpoint of it, we talk about you have to have a foundation of an optimized listing, because you can drive tons of traffic to an unoptimized listing and waste a lot of money. So we worked with a client, they were converting at 12%. We said, okay, you want to launch? They'd already been selling a little bit on Amazon, sort of dipped their toe in it. I said, okay, let's optimize the listing. We got their conversion rate from 12% to 18%. And then they were able to drive traffic. That's 150% increase. That's 50% increase in sales without spending a single extra dollar in advertising. You just had 50% more people converting than you did before. So it's really about having that good landing page. And then, like I said, it's about driving targeted traffic, primarily by taking those SEO keyword research terms that you've come up with and advertising on them with the best campaign structure available.
Absolutely. And one of the things you mentioned, Daniela, earlier, she mentioned just even like a 1 or 2% improvement on each of your product listings can reap amazing returns. So I guess the last question that I really have for you, we've talked about a lot in this conversation, thinking about infrastructure specifically as it pertains to Amazon, what are some other pieces that, a brand can have in place beyond optimized product listings? Anything that we haven't talked about so far?
Well, feedback emails are essential. And I like feedback 5. I'm wearing my ecom engine shirt, because I'm just such a huge fan of not only their product, but their customer service. Sending optimized emails to customers. And we know that there's an opt-out, right? There's a certain percentage of people who opt out of receiving those emails. Of the people who get emails, there's a certain percentage of people who don't open them, certain percentage of people who open them who don't read them or don't take any action. But what we do know is when you act within your circle of influence, as opposed to just your circle of concern, like Stephen Covey talks about, circle of influence means I can send an email and I can engage the customer with a branded email that conveys that I care about them and I care about their experience. And I want to provide as much information as I can to help with their unboxing, with their assembly, or just ensuring they had a good customer experience. So send an email that says something to the effect, and this is the language that I use, your order should have been delivered to you by now. We want to make sure that your product arrived on time and in excellent condition. And I put those in bold: on time, excellent condition. And that lets people know that if the product didn't arrive on time or did not arrive in excellent condition, they should let me know about it because I care. And that's huge because, I did a test with a company. We sent out from 100 emails that we sent out and people responded. 50% of those responses were situations where they had a negative experience. The product was damaged in shipping. Maybe it's a manufacturer defect. Maybe it wasn't the color that they expected. I mean, all of these things that normally would just end up as a negative review, negative seller feedback, or, Amazon giving them a refund. You're now able to get in and help resolve their issue and continue your upward, trajectory. The other thing it does is it can alert you to problems really quickly before Amazon shuts your account down. So we'll have situations where the warehouse will mislabel a product. We start getting emails, people going, hey, I ordered the black one, I got the brown one, what's going on? That lets us know much, much further ahead than Amazon will let us know. We've got a problem. We've got to pause the listing. We got to, investigate the inventory and figure it out before it becomes an epic problem that shuts down our listing or account. So those are some of the infrastructure pieces. Getita, which does, reimbursement, refunds is a big one. Again, you want somebody researching and investigating all the ways and areas where Amazon could owe you money, because you or I we're not going to have the time, we're not going to have the expertise, follow up on all the cases. it's free money, and you have a limited time frame to request those reimbursements. So 2 years goes by, Amazon lost $10,000 worth of inventory. It's gone, and you're never going to get that money back. So those are the kind of infrastructure pieces you want to put in place. And the last, so probably be customer service training, making sure that you've got somebody trained who's checking those messages every single day. Somebody's got to be every single day checking those messages, because Amazon wants a customer response in 24 hours. So you got to be in the account. You got to be have dedicated trained staff who's going to be able to do that. And again, even if you're not, if you can't do it, hire somebody else, outsource it.
Yep. I love that. And it's funny. I actually had an experience recently. I bought something and there was an issue with it, and it was fairly expensive. It would have been a hassle to take it back. And, I just wanted someone to get on the phone and help me, but I get this automated message that says, here's the link to return it. I don't really want to return it. I just want help. But if I work with somebody and have a bad experience and they make it a priority to make that experience better, I'm more likely to go back and buy from them again, because I know that they care about me. So that's absolutely agree with that. Love that. Well, yeah. Shannon, this has been a fascinating conversation. I really appreciate the time that you've shared with us. Now, where can our listeners get in touch with you if they are interested in taking up on working with you for marketplace seller courses or anything else Amazon related?
Yeah. So the best place is simply go to marketplacesellercourses.com. And from there, you'll find Enroll Now, which goes to our Academy page, and you can enroll. We recently changed it to monthly pricing. So for $97 a month, you get full access to all of our Amazon courses. The second one is coaching. So you can click on the link and book a 30-minute or 60-minute on-demand coaching session. Maybe you want help with listing optimization. Maybe you want feedback. Maybe you just want to talk about strategy. Say, hey, Shannon, help us figure this out. I love talking to emerging brand owners and say, we've got these problems, just come with your bucket list and say, here's what we got to figure out. Can you help us go through it and prioritize it? Or get some of these questions answered. And then, like I said, we've got some other resources. We've got a checklist and some different offerings that you can check out there as well. But that's the main place. And then if you want to follow me on LinkedIn, just look for Shannon Roddy, and you'll see me in my ecom engine blue. But yeah, I love posting updates. I posted some Amazon updates this morning. And so if you want to get Amazon updates, you can subscribe to our email list or enroll in the courses or go through the coaching, some of those different aspects of it.
Awesome. Fantastic. Well, hey, I really appreciate the time again. Thanks so much. And I look forward to having future conversations with you.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Nate. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Shannon. That's it for this episode of E-commerce with Coffee, powered by Amber Engine. If you haven't gotten your fix yet, be sure to get more e-commerce brand secrets on our website at amberengine.com. And don't forget to subscribe for more episodes.